Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleash Her. I'm Roberta, and I am your host for the podcast today. And I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining us. I can't wait to introduce you to my guest today. But hey, before I do, please make sure to like and follow this podcast. And if you're not already, jump on over to YouTube so you can see us as well. That is at Roberta Campbell Official on YouTube. Thank you so much for doing that. So today I have Maria Chapman. She is the founder of Connected Ghostwriting, LLC, and founder and director of Journey to Success, Incorporated. Maria is a writer, entrepreneur, and coach who leverages over a decade of coaching experience to help entrepreneurs and thought leaders articulate their ideas and expand their impact through powerful content. Everyone, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Miss Maria. Hi, how are you, Maria?
Hi, Roberta. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good today.
Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to dig in and to get to know you better.
Yes,
So,
thank
do
you.
you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, can I just say I love the name of your podcast?
Thank you. Absolutely, you can.
We should all be unleashed.
Yes, we should.
It's a great visual too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm picturing like my daughter sprinting across the yard, just like her wildest hair, all like that. That
Right?
energy is what
I
I picture.
know. That is exactly it. That's how I felt the last few days. I've been outside swinging, flying kites. I am unleashing myself.
Unleashing yourself from winter in Ohio.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Thank you so much for having me here, Roberta. I am, as you said, I'm Maria. I am a ghostwriter, an author, and a coach. I work with folks with disabilities who are impacted mid-career and need to pivot and choose entrepreneurship as the right path for them.
I love that. Okay. So, have you always been a writer?
Well, if you write, you're a writer. So yes, I've always been a writer.
A good writer,
I have.
knowing that you were going to be a writer for others.
So I've not always been a professional writer.
Yeah.
Although when I started college, my majors were social work and journalism. I double majored. Um, and then I listened to all the noise, right? I remember hearing, I was raised in a small Midwestern town. And so, of course, I was going to grow up and get married and have babies, and that was the main path I should be choosing. And so, when I started college, I heard a lot of, well, you can't be a writer and have kids. It's too hard. You can't make a lot of money writing. So you'll be working too much. And then how would you have a family? And so I heard a lot of that noise, and I didn't yet know how to block that out. I had not become unleashed. So I listened. And after I've changed my major 8 times, I landed in education as sort of an accidental career. Um, and I taught elementary school, and then I was a literacy specialist in a K-5 school and did a lot of curriculum development work and a lot of curriculum writing. And now I write for mental health and social justice professionals. So it's interesting to me because 18-year-old me picked the combination of mental health, social justice, and journalism. And now here I am, I've come sort of full circle. And it's like, if I had just listened to me, I might have avoided all that messy middle. But I heard Jay Shetty on a podcast the other day, and he said that when you are doing all of that stuff that you feel like is a waste of time, or you feel stuck, or you feel like this isn't really the career I'm supposed to be in, that really what you're doing is you're collecting knowledge and experiences that you're then going to connect into something else down the line.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
that's
was
so
like,
good.
oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shetty. I needed to hear that, right? Like all
Yeah.
of those things I did before becoming a professional writer were all things I needed to collect in order to connect the dots and do what I'm doing now.
Ooh, that made me think about myself for a second. You know, I think everybody just thought for a second, oh, yes, I was supposed to go through all that because it did prepare me for what I am, who I am today.
You were collecting.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've had a few people.
I loved that framing of it, right? Like,
I do too.
my business is connected ghostwriting. Clearly, connection is important to me, and that's connection of people and connection of ideas. And so, this idea that we're collecting experiences in order to connect them together to create a life, just I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's not mine. I can't take. Thank you, Jay.
Right.
But
Exactly. Yes. Thank you, Jay.
yes.
I like that. You've been on a journey. So you've okay, I changed your major 8 times. I love that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
yes, I do have not just like I have ADHD, and that is one of the like it's shiny object syndrome, right? A little
Yeah.
bit of that, but I think it was also a little bit of just not knowing who I was at the
Yep.
time.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
So
who does when they're
how
18?
right, exactly. So how did you end up where you're at today?
So I was doing the education career, and I was working too much and not making as much money as I should have, because teaching, we can all agree that teachers should be paid a lot more. And
Yeah.
I was working as an instructional coach at the time, and I started experiencing what I now know were neuromuscular symptoms, but I didn't know at the time what was going on. And so I was a runner, I was a weightlifter, and I stopped being able to run. When I ran, I would have this electrical storm feeling in my legs. And I thought, well, maybe I'm overtraining, or maybe I'm not eating enough protein, right? We always jump to like, what am I doing wrong? Um, and then I stopped being able to lift as heavy as I was. I remember going from, lifting 30 pounds in an overhead press down to 20 and then 15. And when I was at my worst, I could barely lift a cup of coffee. And so I remember it was November. On November 7th, I taught a professional development session for the teachers at my school. And I was experiencing symptoms all day long. I was on the phone with my doctors all the time trying to figure out what's going on, this test, that test. I had been to 12 different doctors at this point. And um, the next day, at that point, I had taken 2 days off a week on FMLA to try to have more time for doctor's appointments and figuring all of this out. And so that Friday, I wasn't working. I woke up from a nap and I stepped out of my bed and my legs didn't work. And so I remember army crawling down the hallway to get my phone. And my first call was to my son's school because I was supposed to pick him up from school. So,
Mm.
of course, right, we think of our kids first.
Yeah.
So I called my son's school and told them I wasn't going to be able to pick him up. And then I called my husband, who left his office and drove home. By the time he got home, my arms weren't working. So I was no longer army crawling. We were just sort of flopping on the floor or laying there. And he picked me up, put me in the car. And by the time we got to the hospital, my jaw had stopped working too. So at that point, I couldn't talk. And I remember he put me in a wheelchair, wheeled me in, and then he had to go move the car. And so I'm sitting there in the wheelchair in the hallway of the emergency room, right next to the ambulance bay. There's gunshot victims coming in. We're in Hartford, Connecticut. And it's busy, everyone's running around me, and I'm sitting there in the hallway. I can't move and I can't talk. And my husband is parking the car in a parking garage and having to walk back, right? So this is I'm just going to pause. You can't hear my dog barking, can you?
No,
Okay.
no.
I have background noise blocked. So I'm sitting there in this wheelchair and I just have tears streaming down my face because I don't know what's going on. Am I having a stroke? Am I dying? Is this my new permanent state? What is happening? So we figured out I wasn't having a stroke. I had all sorts of neurological testing done, but what they didn't do was nerve conduction studies and a spinal tap, which would have diagnosed me. They didn't do that. The condition I have, if you rest a lot, you do have some improvement. And so I left the hospital 4 days later using a walker. And I needed a walker inside the house, a wheelchair outside the house for the next 6 months or so. But I still had issues with my jaw. Like I couldn't eat a salad. I missed salads. I remember like missing like yeah. Right. Sometimes I had trouble swallowing. And so a year later, I finally had a diagnosis of chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy and myasthenia gravis. So 2 different neuromuscular conditions that were causing those symptoms. And in that year, I was medically retired from my teaching career. And, all of that 13, 15-year career gone. But the day that I was in the hospital when sensation started coming back, the first thing that started working were my hands. And I started writing on my laptop because I still couldn't talk. I couldn't get up and move. I couldn't run or lift weights. I couldn't do any, I was stuck in a hospital, right? But I could write. And so I started writing and I started just publishing on my own, on Medium, on my own website during that time. And then I eventually traded that for freelancing contracts for different agencies and companies. And so I worked as a freelance writer for a while. And then one of my clients said, "Hey, do you think you could write my book?" And I said, yes. And so in 2022, I started writing books for my clients. And November 2022 is when I started building the agency and hiring additional people. And so that's.
Wow. Okay. So when did that did you end up in the hospital then?
November of 2019.
In 19. And you make it sound easy.
No,
And I know, and we all know it wasn't.
no, but there is this way that when we tell a story so many times, even if you tell it in a different way every time, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about what I do with ghostwriting, because people are sharing their stories with me. I just had an assignment where I was writing case studies of women who had MS. And so I was interviewing these women, and then I was getting to write their stories. And I received an email back after I sent a draft to this woman who is 76 years old. She has MS. And she worked with a coach that I'm working with. And that coach helped her advocate for herself with her doctors. And so now this woman, who is a retired nurse, spends every Wednesday at the local homeless shelter helping the homeless population learn to advocate for themselves in medical situations. And I got an email from her when she read the draft that just said it came on the perfect day. And it was a really nice reminder that she does have power and she does have influence and she is still doing good in this world. And if we tell our stories, if we share our stories,
Yep.
Yes, it helps other people. We can inspire other women to become unleashed, as you like to say.
Yeah.
But it helps ourselves too.
Mhm. Yeah, it does. It really does. And every time you tell that story, it's healing. And it does get easier. Yes.
It does get easier. It also, there's a book, The Gap and the Gain, and I think,
Yep.
is it a Dan Sullivan book, I think?
Oh, I don't know the other.
Um, but I have it, it's right there.
Yeah.
It's blue. But the idea is that if you focus on the gap between where you are and where you want to be,
Mm.
oftentimes that can be demotivating.
Mm-hmm.
But if you focus on what you've gained, so where you were and where you are now, and you look at that and say, wow, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of awesome. That fuels motivation more than, well, but I have this much further to go.
Isn't that the truth?
I just remember, like, running a 5K, right? When you're 1 kilometer in, if you start thinking, oh my God, I got 4 to go,
Mm.
then every step is going to hurt, right? But
For sure.
if you think about, oh, I've already gotten this many steps, oh, I've already gone this far, suddenly we have a different viewpoint, different perspective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if we can tell our story, it helps us do that. It helps us to see the game
Yeah.
and how far we've come.
Yeah. We need that reminder. I like that. I do. Because sometimes we forget. We look at how far, where we want to go. But of course, we'll be the rest of our lives because we'll keep changing our goals,
Well, right,
most
isn't
likely.
that's what we do? We keep moving the goalpost. Like,
Yeah.
if you think about it, like, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I actually, at the end of this year, or at the end of last year, instead of setting goals for the next year, I mean, I did that too. But first, what I did is I sort of sat down and wrote all of the things I accomplished last calendar year. And when I got to the end of the list and I realized I wrote 9 books this year,
That's a lot.
that's
It's amazing.
right. And it's not just me. I have a team now of
Yeah.
writers, but
Ah,
I oversaw the creation of 9 new books this year. And that's in addition to the website content and all the other stuff we did. And then I launched a nonprofit too. So it's just spending those few minutes sort of writing down the accomplishments at
yeah.
the end of the year instead of just focusing on what do I want to achieve next year.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that felt good to me. So I think I'm going to do it again at the end of this year.
Yes. I like that. I love that so much. So how do you celebrate? How do you celebrate your achievements? When
I'm
because too, you're like behind the scenes.
I am behind the scenes. I have a couple of clients who talk about working with me, and that's fantastic, and I appreciate it, but it's never expected.
Mm,
Um, so I'm terrible at the celebration piece.
mm,
So, and my husband sort of jokes about this at this point, right? He'll say, what if I get a new contract? He's like, is it time to celebrate now? Do we celebrate when we sign the contract? Do we celebrate every time you get a payment? How do we celebrate? Right? Or I got a publishing contract for my book that's coming out at the end of this year. And he says, okay, is it time to celebrate now or do we celebrate when the book comes out? So he jokes with me. But I actually was challenged by my therapist last year to
mm,
find ways to celebrate.
mhm.
And so I've been practicing and trying to figure out what feels like a celebration to me. And I still don't know, but I do know that I have to be with my family, or at least with my husband, or it doesn't feel like a celebration. Um, But you know what I do is I get, and this, maybe this is true for you too, I get this feeling when someone says, wow, that's amazing, what an accomplishment. I feel like shrinking or hiding. It's hard for me to sort of take that. And my husband, because he likes to joke, this is his new thing, is if I start shrinking when someone compliments me, he goes up to me, he goes, no, stop, try again.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's got jokes. And but I need that. I do need that. I need the reminder that I don't need to shrink, and that it is okay for me to say, yeah, I'm proud of myself.
Definitely. It is. And why is that so hard to do? I guess what we're used to.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my daughter this morning. So I have this fitness shirt that I wore to my training session this morning that says, I'm not aspiring to be humble. And my daughter read the shirt, and she's 8, and she goes, humble is not bragging. And I said, yes, that's one of the ways people use it. And she goes, so why does your shirt mean you want to brag? And I said, no, not exactly. I said, but sometimes people use the word humble to make women feel like they need to be smaller or be quieter or be less intense. And I said, but I don't want to be small and I don't want to be quiet, and she picks up on what I'm saying, and she starts talking about it. And I think that that's where it comes from. It's that idea that we're supposed to always be humble, or that any amount of celebrating ourselves or being proud of our own accomplishments is bragging, and therefore doesn't make us humble. Like
Yeah.
that the two can't coexist, right? That pride and humility can't coexist. And I don't think that that's true.
Yeah.
Right? I can be very proud of what I've accomplished. I can be very proud that I get to write for a living. That's an absolute dream for me.
Oh,
And at the same time, I can step back and say, I'm proud of myself, but also I didn't do it by myself. And I think that's where the humility comes in.
yeah.
It's this idea that any of us who get through something difficult did it with help.
It's like I'm proud of myself and I'm grateful for the people that have been there beside me.
Right, right.
You
And
know.
that's where I'm saying, like, pride and
Yeah.
humility can coexist
Yes.
as long
Yeah.
as you remain grateful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so when I got that first book contract, I said, well, I'm good at writing. That's not a problem. I understand book structure because, I mean, how many hundreds of books have I always have 3 books going at any point in time. I have a fiction book that I read
Okay.
in the evenings or at my lunch break when I want some downtime. I have a business book that I read in the mornings to set the tone for the day. And then I always have a self-development book that I'm reading as well. And that's usually an audiobook. And so I read a ton. And so I had, these ideas of book structure and how different types of books are put together, right? I taught literacy education. This was my wheelhouse. But I didn't know anything about the book writing and publishing industry. And so I looked around and I said, okay, who's doing this? And I found a coach who runs a successful ghostwriting agency. We write in different niches, but the how-to is the same, right? The recipe is the same. You can make apple crisp the same way you make blueberry crisp. You just swap the fruit out. And so I hired him and I said, I'm going to give you money. And then he taught me the things that I
Mm.
needed to know in order to not just make this, oh, yeah, I'm writing a book for someone, right? That's one way to do it. That would be a side hustle, perhaps. But I wasn't interested in a side hustle. I was interested in building a business
Yeah.
and hiring my coach. And his name's Nick Pavlidis. He's amazing. Highly recommend him. If you can afford him. He's more expensive than I am. Um,
Mhm.
he One of his guiding principles is that number one, there's enough work for everyone.
Mm.
And so we don't need to worry about competition.
Yeah.
And my favorite line of his is that if he helps enough people be successful, he doesn't ever have to worry about his own success.
Oh, I like that.
And I love that. And I think that if we focus there and look back at the people that helped us get where we are, and clearly, I've mentioned my husband a couple of times, but clearly he's one of the reasons I'm here. He's tapping me on the shoulder and saying, no, 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 stop shrinking, try again. Right. When I kicked the walker across the room the day I got the medical retirement paperwork, and I said, oh, I'm not good at anything else. And he was the one who looked at me and said, are you insane? Like, you're a safe bet. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I know you're going to figure it out. And so, yes, be proud of yourself. Don't be afraid to celebrate your accomplishments. Again, I'm still working on that. I'm not, but then that gratitude piece is so, so important, because otherwise I think there's this
Mhm.
sense of, people see successful people and think they did it on their own. And so if I'm not there and if they're there and I'm here, then it must be because I'm less than they are. When really it's that they found the right support at the right time.
Yeah.
And so go find you some support.
Yeah. I know. I didn't even know that, like, I'm gonna say this. Okay, whatever. Normal people, average people. I would say that.
Yeah.
I would have said, what? Like people like me, just normal people need a coach? Like what for? We need help. We all can use some guidance, and whether that's a mentor or a coach. You're right. You need that. If
You
you
do.
want to do more in your life and to find your purpose.
Well, purpose is a funny thing, right? Because I think our purpose changes.
I do too. I agree.
And I,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we try to narrow our purpose so much that we can't see outside of it, right? Like that comment that I'm not good at anything else was because I saw myself as an educator, as a teacher.
Yeah.
And so then you have blinders on and you can't see where those skills can transfer
Yeah.
or how it can serve other people in other ways. So yes, purpose, but I think we need to stop defining purpose so narrowly.
Hmm. Like we have one purpose. Like we don't have one purpose. Yeah.
And your purpose might not be your job.
Yeah. Right.
It's okay if you have a job that's just a job.
Yeah.
There are lots of people who do that. If you don't like it, you could change that. But if you don't want to, that's okay. You can find purpose in other places.
Right.
Like, where do you find purpose?
Myself. I love helping others. When I know that, like in my coaching, when I have done something where somebody is like, oh my gosh, you just brought up something I never would have thought of. I'm like, oh, Thank you. That's it. And so by helping them, I'm helping myself too. It's a win-win.
Right. If you help enough people be successful,
Yeah.
then you never have, right? And
Yeah.
so like I find purpose being a parent to my kids.
Mm.
But not all of my purpose comes from that, right? Like I am not a stay-at-home parent. I tried. I got a master's degree after my son was born and then another one after my daughter was born because I'm really bad at being a stay-at-home parent.
Oh,
But I find purpose helping people connect and communicate. And that's where the ghostwriting comes in. But I also, like you, find purpose in helping people level up in some way. And that's where my work with the nonprofit comes in with Journey to Success, right?
okay.
Because I see that, when I lost my career and had to make that pivot, I had not a pile of resources and not maybe as much support as I would have liked, but I had a lot more than a lot of people have.
Mm.
There are women in the online support groups I'm part of for chronic health conditions, neuromuscular conditions. There are people in there whose spouses leave when they get diagnosed.
Mm.
And there are people who struggle to start an entrepreneurial endeavor because they need benefits. So they stay at a 9-to-5 job that's killing them.
Mm.
Right. And so with the nonprofit, what we do is try to remove some of those barriers and try to offer some of that support to people who are disabled in the middle of their career. Because people who choose self-employment after a disability have higher rates of self-efficacy, but they also have better health outcomes. So it's not just that financial reward. It's when you stop trying to climb a corporate ladder in a wheelchair and stop trying to grind out a path that wasn't even built for you in the first place.
Mm.
You can put more energy and effort into your own health and figuring out this new life. It really is. I like to say that I really have a lot more understanding of toddlers now because I relearned how to walk as an adult. It was like someone took away the body I was used to, right? This runner, weightlifter body. They took it away. And then I got this body that needed a walker to get to the mailbox.
Right.
The frustration. Like, no wonder toddlers throw themselves on the floor and cry. It's not really acceptable to do that when you're 35, 40.
Right.
But I get
Right.
it.
Oh,
I get it.
and you get frustrated and you get right back up and you
Sometimes
keep going.
sometimes you do need to throw yourself on the floor and cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's another point
Mm.
too, that when you're going through
Mm.
something that is really sticky like that, could be divorce, it could be illness, injury, something life-changing. You have to take those moments to sit with the fact that this situation sucks.
Mm.
And it's probably unfair and you probably don't deserve it. And it's hard and it's terrible. And you have to sit with that. You have to grieve that.
For sure. For sure. But just don't stay there.
Don't stay there.
That's
Stay there.
right. Right.
But don't ignore it either, because if you ignore it, it will come up in 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Right. Yeah. It's okay to be pissed. It's okay to get it out. We got to. Or else you're going to hold it in and that causes issues in your body too.
Right.
So, get pissed. Whatever it takes. Let it out.
Right. Well,
I agree.
I don't you're in the Midwest. Did you grow up in the Midwest?
Mhm.
All right. I
Yeah.
saw women, and maybe you have the similar experience, but I saw women who were mothers And most of the mothers I knew growing up did not work outside the home.
Ah,
Some did, but most did not. But even the ones that worked outside the home were taking care of 100% of inside the home.
yes.
And there was like this simmering rage.
Mm.
And then they'd step on a Lego. And like these years of repressed rage just exploded out at everyone who happened to be in the vicinity.
Girl, seriously. I no. So I was like a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
I worked part-time, whatever. But and I wanted to be like the women that were out there all dressed up, going to their nice jobs. Some people probably wanted to stay at home and we're like, no, you don't. We're both like, what?
Right.
It's like crazy. We always want what we can't have or don't have.
Yes. And when something that you want is taken away from you,
Yeah.
if you don't process those emotions, it's going to simmer under the surface until you step on a Lego.
And that really hurts.
It really hurts and you're going to explode on people near you. And you don't
Yeah.
want to do that. That's
Yeah.
going to damage relationships and hearts. And that's not, it's not good for us. It's not good for anyone else either.
Oh my goodness. There's a lot of people holding on to a lot of stuff, and I admire you for what you're doing. My mom has MS and boy, she is a fighter. She's 83. She's like, I don't need a wheelchair.
Good for her.
But we're like, the cane isn't quite enough. We're like, you need the walker. And
Okay.
sometimes she does need the wheelchair when she's out for a while, but she will fight it. Oh, good and bad. I don't know.
There
Is
is,
what it is.
well, yes, there is difficulty with the acceptance though.
Yeah.
And I find that
Yeah.
with some of the entrepreneurs that I'm coaching through the nonprofit, um, I was having a conversation with one of them yesterday, and she was saying, I tried to do too much and then I crash. Right.
Yeah.
She had a 2 week period where she canceled our meetings and this and that and the other thing. And I was like, okay, so that's actually what we need to address before we talk about sales or social media marketing or an email list or anything else.
Mm. Yeah.
We need to come to actual terms with what you're capable of right now,
Okay.
what your limitations are, and let's be real about that. And that's true not just if you have an illness or a disability, that's true for all of us. At different stages of life, you're going to have different availability for work, for relationships, for friendships. And you have to be able to be honest about what that is. And one of the things I asked her to do is to make a list of non-negotiables for her health.
Mm.
And when we come back and she has that list, we're going to take a real look at an actual calendar for her week. Because if you need 8 hours of sleep to function properly,
Mm-hmm.
which most of us do,
Yes.
and if you have a chronic illness, you might need 9 or 10.
Yep.
And if you need an hour and a half in the morning to get your kid to school, and you need physical therapy 3 times a week, and you have to take your medication every day, but it makes you really tired and you have to nap afterwards. Or you have to eat specific foods because of an autoimmune condition or allergy, and it takes longer to prep it because of that. All of these things take time. but they're also non-negotiable, because if you're not healthy, if you're not functioning at an optimal level, whatever optimal looks like for you, nothing else was going to work either. Because you're going to push yourself too hard, and then you're going to crash. You're not going to be able to work on your business for 2 weeks.
Mm.
And businesses are like kids. You have to feed them at least 3 times a day,
Mm.
every day. You have to at least show up in some way. It doesn't matter if it's a hot dog and boxed mac and cheese, but you gotta feed them something.
Right.
Right. So um so we take that non-negotiable list, and when, like, I've done this a couple of times, and the first time I did it, I had about 5 hours a week that I could dedicate to working, and that's when I was freelance writing, and I fit what I could into 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then I got a little bit better, and I got 10 hours a week where I could work, and then I got a little bit better, and when I started working with Nick, my coach, um I had about 15 hours a week where I could work. And he said, okay, I want you to do these 4 activities for your business every week. Whatever time you have, divide them amongst these 4 activities, right? Do the actual work, marketing, learning about what you need to be doing, and then building a network. Those 4 activities every week. And if you do those, you'll be successful. And he's right. He's a very smart guy. He's done this for a long time. He's been in the business world for his entire career. And because I made those choices and prioritized my health and my non-negotiable list, I'm now at a point where I can work a 30-hour week. And I think 30 hours is full time. People, this
I
whole
know. I
40,
do too.
this whole 40-hour work week business, that's for people without kids.
Yeah.
Like I truly believe that the 40-hour work week was created for men who went to work and had stay-at-home wives. It was
Yeah.
not created for people who were primary parents, who were solo parents, or who were sharing parenting responsibilities equally, right? It wasn't meant
Yeah.
for the world we have now. And so I think 30 hours is full time. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because I prioritize that non-negotiable list.
You have to do that.
What's
And you've
on?
done a great job.
I have. Thank you. What's on your non-negotiable list?
Um, for me, I have to start out my morning with going into a quiet space and finding gratitude, no matter what I feel like. And, some days I do some reading. But if nothing else, even if I write in my journal or not, it is what am I grateful for today? Because I know that by finding the things that I'm grateful for, even when we are having a snowstorm here, it's freezing. You don't want to go outside. It's gloomy. And I mean, our winters, whew, it can be
Yeah.
a little rough, you know? And you're like, I've got to find something good today, or else I'm going to be miserable.
Right.
So
And
no matter what kind of day it is, find something to be grateful for.
I love that.
And yes, now I'm in a really, really good routine, but it was do something in your business. Do something to move forward. But the biggest thing is to get my mind right. Because once I get my mind right and find that gratitude and find peace, really everything, the pieces really do come together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because I used to just be like, I would get up and, and when the kids were like, hurry and rush and this and that and do this and do that and go. And I'm like, we got to slow down. That's why I agree with the 30 hours a week is plenty to be working. But sometimes I don't want to stop and I find things, I love what I do. And so I could do it all day long.
Yes, I have to. So one of my rules is that during the work week, my computer stays in my office.
Ooh, that's good. Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not perfect about it. But
Okay.
if I don't take my computer upstairs to the kitchen, it's a lot harder to check my email after dinner when I'm supposed to be mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, recently too, I've been working on my YouTube. So I'm like, okay, I made a committed decision and this is what I'm doing. So I need to do one more little post, short, whatever it is, and that's it. It's just one quick thing. And then I'm good because I don't have it on where it can do it for me yet,
Yeah.
scheduled. So I have to go in and do that. And it's okay. This is good. This is okay. But I just am like, don't stay there. And sometimes you can get pulled in by all of that. So I think for me too, it's also saying and knowing when enough is enough.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Because personal development is like addicting.
Yes.
Those books, I haven't read that one, The Gap and the Gain. I've heard about it. And then the podcast before this one, she was talking about atomic habits. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's on my list.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
good.
just, for me, I have to learn to stop and say no. Because I do have time now as an empty nester. I have
Oh,
the time.
yes.
So I have to learn to say no.
Yeah, we have 3 out of the house and 2 in the house. So I am not an empty nester yet. Our youngest is
Okay.
8. So we've got some.
Right. A little bit to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is what is next for you?
Ooh, next for me. More books. I
Mhm.
want to write more
Yeah.
books for people. I actually I would like to write a book that people want to ban. That's I'm really excited about that idea.
Oh, whoa. She waited till the end to throw us that one.
um yes, so I'm actually working
Okay.
on finding a grant for a nonprofit to help them write their book. Um and I have to speak in code because ghostwriters and non-disclosures.
Okay.
So that's on my want to do list. My book is coming out this winter. I don't know if it's going to be early winter or late winter yet because I'm trying not to kill myself with the finishing of the book. Um, but that's coming up next, and we're launching a fundraising campaign for the nonprofit as well.
Oh my gosh.
It's
That's awesome. You're a busy girl.
I am, yes, but busy people are more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Oh, Maria, thank you so much.
Thank you,
This was
Roberta.
really good. Thank you for just sharing and opening up. And you're such a good testament to just never stop. Just keep going.
Over and over again. That's it.
Over and over. Is there anything else that you want to share with everyone? Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me, Maria F. Chapman. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We are at connectedghostwriting.com and journeytosuccess.org.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for being here too. I'm so grateful for all of you. And so make sure that you please like, subscribe, follow this channel. We appreciate you. And the more content, the more interaction that we get, the more amazing speakers and guests that we have on here. So thank you again. Until next time, see you all soon.